This lesson, we're going to be looking at Venn diagrams, with the first lesson on this topic looking at interpreting them. Let's jump right in. So a Venn diagram provides a means of classifying items of data which may or may not share common properties. Now, you've definitely all seen these before. These are the diagrams that are represented by two circles. One of the circles called set A, the other circle is called set B. The circle A represents all the data contained within set A, or the circle in circle B contains all the data in set B. And this overlap is all the common data between the two data sets. Okay, so let's have a look at some examples of these. So I'm going to kick off with a not very useful example, okay, but just to get you thinking about what the circles actually mean. Okay, so we've got two sets of data here. One of them are pupils who attend John Frost, the other one are pupils who attend Baselig School. And the data is simply the number of pupils who attend each school, okay? Now, if you attend John Frost, you do not attend Baselig, and vice versa, okay? You can only go to one school. So if we were to draw this as a Venn diagram, this is what it would look like. It'd be two separate circles with the numbers of the pupils in each school in each one, okay? Now, this isn't a very good Venn diagram because the circles don't overlap, okay? And Venn diagrams specifically show us the common data between sets, okay? So like I said, there's a fairly useless diagram, but hopefully this should start to get you thinking about that the circles are the total number of data in each set, okay? So let's have a look at a proper example now. So if we have 100 pupils studying GCSEs, we're told that 40 of them study history, 25 study geography. We're also told that 10 of them take both history and geography, and 45 pupils take neither subject. So if we were to turn this into a Venn diagram, this is what it would look like. We'd have two circles overlapping, one representing history, one representing geography. If we now have to populate this diagram with numbers now, we can't just put 40 in the history circle and 25 in the geography circle, because if you did this, you would be saying that there are 40 people who only do history and there are no who also do geography. So we need to read the information, okay? So the first bit, we're told that 10 pupils take both history and geography. So this area represents those who do both history and geography. So I'm going to put 10 in there. Now, this circle, remember, represents everyone who takes history. And we know that there are 40 in total. So something plus 10 equals 40. And that's going to be 30. And you can double check you've got it right, because all the numbers in the circle need to add up to, in this case, 40, because that's what this circle is representing, how many pupils do history. If we now look at the geography circle, this circle represents 25 pupils. Now, we already know 10 of those also do history. So 10 plus something is 25, and that has to be 15. You can double check it. In this circle should be 25 people. 10 plus 15 is 25. Perfect. Happy days. And then the last part of this information now, we can actually have information outside Venn diagrams. So if a bit of data doesn't comply with either of the sets, so if a pupil doesn't do history or they do geography, we simply write their number outside of the Venn diagram like so. Okay, in this case, there were 45 pupils who took neither subject. So that is how you would populate a Venn diagram. This is what a real one looks like, okay? Now, there's lots of Venn diagrams. You may see lots of Venn diagrams during your time in school and in life in general. Some of them are fairly useful. For example, this one, we've got two sets of data. One's even numbers, one's prime numbers, and the overlap is 2, okay? Because the 2 is the only number that is even and a prime number. You can get less useful Venn diagrams, and you can get other Venn diagrams that if you understand them, you need to update your music tastes. So let's have a look at some example questions. So this is the same Venn diagram as from the example earlier. 100 pupils were asked if they studied history or geography. 40 studied history, 25 geography, 10 studied both, and 45 studied neither. So the question you can get for this, such as, how many pupils study history? So we're actually told this information in the little bit of spiel at the start, but to double check your answer, if you look at the history circle, you can see that there are 30 people who only do history and 10 who do history and geography. 30 plus 10 is 40. So we can see that there are 40 pupils who study history, who just study history. Okay, so they may study something else, but we know we know at least 40 people study history. Next question. How many pupils study geography only? So we're looking for pupils that only study geography that don't also study history. So if we were to draw the geography circle, we can't go into the overlap because then we'd be counting pupils who also do history because we're looking for only geography. So our line is going to just come around there. So we're not going to include the intersection. And this number, the only numbers in this area are 15. So there are only 15 pupils who study geography only. And then the last question, how many pupils did not study history? Okay. So there's two ways you can go about this. You can either think, well, how many pupils do study history? And you can take that number away from the total. That would leave you with the rest. But if you were to think of it with Venn diagrams, if you remember that this circle is who studies history, we want everything outside of this circle. We want all the numbers outside of that circle, okay? And the two numbers we've got are 15 and 45. 15 plus 45 equals 60. So that is how many people do not study history, okay? So using Venn diagrams, there's a few different ways you can work out some of the answers to these questions, okay? Let's have a look at another example. This time, 30 pupils were asked if they preferred football or rugby. 40% said they liked football, 10% said they liked both equally. No one disliked football or rugby. So if we're going to fill in this Venn diagram now, one bit of information we can definitely put in is that because no one disliked football or rugby, we can put 0 outside the Venn diagram. So now we know all the information is going to be in this Venn diagram. 40% said they liked football. So therefore, 40% of 30, which is the total, that is equal to 12. So we know we can't fill the circle in just yet, but we can say that 12 people like football. So we know the football circle is going to include 12 people. 10% said they liked both equally. So therefore, 10% of 30 is equal to 3. Now we can put this number in because they said they liked both equally. So that's going to go in this intersection area. So we can put in 3 in there. Now we can have a go at answering the rest of the question, okay? We can fill in the rest of the diagram. Start off with the football circle first. All the numbers in the football circle have to add up to 12. So 3 plus something equals 12. Well, that's going to be 9. Job done. Now, for the rest of the rugby circle now, we don't know how many people in total liked rugby. But because we know that no one disliked football or rugby, all of these numbers have to add up to 30. Because there's 30 people in total, and all the numbers in the Venn diagram have to add up to the total. That must mean that 9 plus 3 plus something equals 30. Well, 9 plus 3 is 12. So therefore, the missing number is 18. You can double check this. 9 plus 3 is 12. 12 plus 18 is 30. All our data is contained in this Venn diagram now, okay? Because there's 0 people who disliked football or rugby. And if you just wanted to fill in this bracket up here, 3 plus 18 is 21. So we know that 21 pupils like rugby. They may also like football, but we know 21 pupils do like rugby. So let's have a look at the questions. How many pupils only like rugby? So we're going to be looking at this section here. So it's the rugby circle that doesn't include those who also like football. That is going to be 18. Question 2, who likes football or rugby, but not both? So for that, let's have a look at who likes football, but not rugby. That's going to be this area here. So we've got 9. 9 people like football. And the people who like rugby, not football, is going to be this area here. Ooh, a bit eager with that. Which is 18. Notice we haven't included the area where they like both because the question didn't want that. They rugby or football, but not both. So that means 9 plus 18. That is going to be 27 pupils. Okay, that's your final answer for that. And the final question now, how many pupils do not like rugby? Or how many pupils did not prefer rugby? So again, do not like rugby, that means that they, if you want to think of the opposite, it means that they like football but not rugby, okay? Or if another way to think about it, sorry, is if you think of the whole circle, this whole circle represents who does like rugby. Therefore, everything outside of that circle will be who doesn't like rugby. And there's two numbers outside, there's a 0 and there's a 9. Well, 0 plus 9 is 9, so therefore 9 pupils do not like rugby. Okay, so let's have a look at one more example. So last example now. If 50 people were asked if they spoke English or Welsh, of those people asked, 40 spoke English, 10 spoke Welsh, and 5 spoke both languages. So the first part of this question will be to complete the Venn diagram, okay? So not going to put any numbers in the Venn diagram just yet, because if we look at the first bit of information, it says 40 spoke English. So we can't fill in the English circle yet, but we can say that the total for the English circle is going to be 40. 10 spoke Welsh, and we can't write anything in the circle, but we can say that a total of 10 people speak Welsh. Now, 5 people spoke both languages. We can put that in the intersection, because that means there are 5 people who speak both Welsh and English. Now, if we want to populate the English circle now with numbers, we know there's already 5 people who speak English who also speak Welsh. So how many more people do we need to put in this number so we get a total of 40? Well, 35, because 35 plus 5 equals 40. And that's what the English circle has to add up to. If we think about the Welsh circle now, we know the numbers in the circle have to add up 10, because there's 10 Welsh speakers in total. So 5 plus 5 in this case is going to be 10. Now, before we go answer the questions, because there's the third question says who speaks no Welsh or English. Now, when you're doing these Venn diagrams, because we know there's 50 people in total, assuming you've done everything right this far, all the numbers inside this diagram, this whole rectangle, should add up to 50. So 35 plus 5 plus 5, that equals 45. Well, hang on a minute, that means we're 5 short. Now, either it means we've made a mistake, but we haven't. So that must mean that there are an extra 5 people outside the diagram who speak neither language, okay? So always, and now if you add up all the numbers, 35 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, that equals 50. So now we've accounted for 50 people in this question, okay? So if we look at the part B of the questions now, how many people only speak Welsh? Well, that we're looking at this part of the circle. That is the Welsh circle, but doesn't include the overlap with English. So that's just 5 people. How many people only speak English? Again, we're going to look at the English circle, but we're not going to include the overlap with the Welsh. So that's 35. And how many people speak no Welsh or English? Well, that was this outlier over here. These were the people who didn't speak either language, and that is 5 people. Okay, so those are your examples. Let's have a look at the main task questions. So here you go. Make sure you read the questions carefully. Draw out your Venn diagrams. Otherwise, you're going to find these questions very hard to answer. Okay, so pause the video and best of luck. Okay, here are your answers. Very well done if you got them all right. And now we're going to be moving on to the checking question now. So 30 pupils were asked which town they had visited in the last 2 years, Aberystwyth, Bangor or Wrexham. So we've got a 3-way Venn diagram now, okay? So be really careful when you're filling this in, okay? So two pupils visited all 3 cities. 1 pupil visited Wrexham and Bangor, but not Aberystwyth. 4 visited Aber and Wrexham, but not Bangor. 13 pupils visited Wrexham. 26 visited at least one of the cities. 2 pupils had visited Bangor, but not Aberystwyth or Wrexham. And 8 pupils had visited Bangor. And the 2 questions are, how many pupils had visited Aberystwyth, but not Wrexham or Bangor? And part B, 1 pupil was selected at random. Given that the pupil had visited Wrexham, what was the probability that he had also visited Aberystwyth? So, first thing you're going to want to do is complete the Venn diagram, and then you can have a go at answering the 2 questions, okay? So pause the video and have a go. Best of luck. Okay, so I'm going to go through filling in the Venn diagram and then we'll answer the questions, okay? So for part 1, 2 pupils, so the first bit of information, two pupils visited all 3 cities. Now the area that represents all 3 cities is where all the circles overlap. So we're going to write a 2 in there. The second part, 1 pupil had visited Wrexham and Bangor, but not Aberystwyth. So we're looking for an overlap between Wrexham and Bangor, but not Aberystwyth. That's there. 4 pupils had visited Aberystwyth and Wrexham, but not Bangor. So Aberystwyth and Wrexham, but not Bangor, goes up there. 13 pupils had visited Wrexham. Now, that means that for Wrexham, 13 people in total visited it. Now, we've already got 7 pupils here. We've got 7 people here. 4 plus 2 plus 1 is 7. So 7 plus something is 13. That's going to be 6. Done that one. 26 pupils had visited at least one of the cities. Now, we can't write anything in the Venn diagram for this information, but what this tells us, if 26 pupils visited at least one of them, that means 4 pupils haven't visited any. So we can write 4 outside of the Venn diagram, okay? 2 pupils had visited Bangor, but not Aberystwyth or Wrexham. So that means we're going to put 2 in only Bangor, and not Aberystwyth or Wrexham. And 8 pupils in total have visited Bangor. So therefore, all the numbers in this circle have to add up to 8. 2 plus 2 plus 1 is 5. Therefore, the missing number is 3. Now, the final question here is, or part A now, asks how many pupils have visited Aberystwyth but not Wrexham or Bangor? So we're trying to find this number in the only Aberystwyth section of the Venn diagram. And the way we're going to do this, we know that all these numbers have to add up to 30 because there was 30 pupils in total, okay? So if we add them all up, hopefully we should find how many more we need to get to 30. So 4 plus 6 is 10, 2 plus 2 plus 3 is 17, plus 1 is 18, plus 4 is 22. So we've got 22 people already accounted for, therefore it is 8 people have only visited Aberystwyth, not Wrexham or Bangor, okay? Then part B, 1 pupil was selected at random. Given the pupil had visited Wrexham, what was the probability he had also visited Aberystwyth? Okay, so we're trying to find the probability of if a pupil has already visited Wrexham, so they're already contained in this circle, what is the probability they had also visited Aberystwyth? So let's use a different colour now. So they've been to Wrexham and they've also been to Aberystwyth. So we're looking at this part now. We're looking at 4. So we can see the four pupils went to Wrexham and Aber, and 2 of them went to all 3 of them, okay? So how many pupils are in this area here? Well, 4 plus 2 is 6. So 6 pupils. And the question says the pupil had, we'd chosen a pupil that had already visited Wrexham, and 13 pupils had already visited Wrexham. So this probability is going to be 6 out of 13. Okay? So therefore, to write 6 out of 13, you just write as a fraction 6 over 13, okay? So that's a probability that if you picked a student who had been to Wrexham, that they'd also been to Aberystwyth. Okay. Now, this was a bit of a sneaky question of probability using a Venn diagram. We're going to be covering this in 2 lessons time. Okay, so don't worry too much if you didn't get that last one, but very well done if you completed the whole Venn diagram and got all the numbers right. Okay, good work, guys, and we'll see you next lesson. Bye now.